Hi friends, welcome back to Connerty Meadows Farm. So a few videos ago we picked and dried some stinging nettles, some comfrey and some mint. So today I'm going to show you how we preserve it after drying it. At this point it's been down and hung and it's all dry, and so now we're going to go ahead and I store in a mason jar. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our mason jar, and these are the really big ones. These are not quartz. They're much bigger than quartz. And I go ahead and I get some painter's tape and a Sharpie, because telling yourself, oh, I'm going to remember what's in the jar, never works out very well. I'm going to go ahead and put this on the jar. And the reason why I use painter's tape is because it's really easy to take it off when you're done, and it doesn't leave a really sticky, yucky film on it, and it's really easy to see what's on there. So the first one that we're going to work with today is the stinging nettle. So I'm going to write stinging nettle, and I'm going to write the year that we're collecting it as well, because I want to use my older stuff first. So there we go. And we're ready to go ahead and get started on processing this. The next couple items we're going to need is the nettle that we dried. I have a big bowl, and then I also have a funnel. We're just going to put the funnel aside right now, but we'll come back to that. So the nettle is all dry, and the one way to test to see if your stuff is dry is I like to take it and squish it. And I don't know if you can hear that crunchy sound. That's how I know that it's dry and it's ready to be processed. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go ahead and show you how we take it off of the long sticks and get it put into the bowl and crushed up so that we can put it all into that big jar over there. So you remember how we talked about the fact that once nettle is dry, it no longer stings. So as you can see, I can touch this and it doesn't sting anymore. It's a nice big long batch. So I'm going to come to the end here where we tied our string. I'm going to get rid of all of this stuff on the end here, however that will look. Okay, and now my string can easily just slide right off. You could cut this off too, but I figure I have to take it all off anyway, so I'm just going to take the string off, slide it down, and then I'm just gonna lay these beside me, and I'll get rid of these guys. Okay, so one stick at a time, and you can just hold your fingers on it and slide it down. Now they do make tools to do this, so that you would just slide the end of your stick into the tool and it would take them all out. But I find even if you use the tool, you still have to go back and clean up all the extra leaves. So for me, I find it's just as easy to go ahead and do it by hand. And then these I set aside in a separate container, and I feed them to the goats. It's kind of like they get a little treat of hay. And as you can see, there is no sting. I would not be touching this like this if there was any sting left. You saw what it did to my, my leg in the previous video. And if you have not watched the video on harvesting these 3 items, I will link it in the description box below for you. Okay, so my bowl's getting a bit full here, and there's no way all of this is gonna fit into the bowl, into this jar the way it is. So the next thing I do is I just take my hand and I crunch it all up. And this is how you'll know it's dry. If you're crunching this and it doesn't turn into a bit of a finer powder, then it's not dry enough and you'll need to hang it up and go back and wait a little bit longer. So once I'm at this point, you see how much that went down. My bowl isn't near as full. I will go through, you'll see that there is some stickier chunks in here, and I will go through and I'll take those bigger chunks out, like these ones. You're not gonna drink those in tea anyway, and if I put them in my soaps, they kind of are a little more scratchy than people kind of want on their skin. So we get rid of them. You just pick through. It's a little bit time consuming. I know lots of people use like a coffee grinder and stuff, but I just like to get rid of those big ones. Okay, then I can go back to doing some more of this. Another way that you're gonna know that it's dry enough is if you do this and the leaves don't come off, that's another good indicator that it's just not dry enough. You'll have to come back at a later date and try again. Now some of these in the handling, they'll fall off and come out. That's why I'm doing it on a table. I can sweep that all up with my hand afterwards and add them back into the pile. Lots of bits fall off. Scrunch it all up again. Let's just show you, for the sake of moving along in this video, what we do next. So we're gonna get our jar. We're going to add our cap to the jar. And then we are going to take this and we are going to carefully pinch this in. So now you can see how little room it actually takes up in the jar. So I'm going to be able to actually do all of this nettle, and it should in theory fit in all of this jar. If it doesn't, I'll just go grab another one. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this, and then we're gonna move on to doing the comfrey and the mint. Well guys, we made it. All of it stuffed into one jar. So if you looked at how much we had in the bucket when we collected it the other day, it's hard to believe that that all fit into this jar, but it does. So there we go. This is going to go in my pantry, and it is not super cool, but it is dark, and it'll go on the shelf with all of the rest of the spices and herbs and other tea things that I use for tea. So you remember with the comfrey that I had some of it on what I call my outdoor solar dryer. And this is it right here. So this is actually really easy. We simply have to pick these off. And again, to check to see if they're done, it's a very easy, and they crush up really easily. So we're just gonna go ahead and pop these all in the bowl. Let's take these around and smush them up. And then we are going to grab the rest of them. When I went inside to grab the jar, I actually looked it up, and it's what they call a 1.9 liter jar. And so that's what I use for putting the herbs and stuff in. And again, I'm just gonna put some painter's tape on it. Comfrey 2021. I don't bother putting the month or anything like that. 2021's good enough for me for what I need. All right. So the process is pretty much the same for this one as it was for the stinging nettle. The fine little hairs again are not so much of a problem now. So we're just gonna squish it up. Squish it up. Now, this is what we're taking out of this batch. And I'm setting all of this stuff that doesn't squish up very good. I set it aside, and in the end, I'll take this down and it'll be a little treat for the goats. Most of the comfrey does squish up. Sometimes you'll have some leaves that have a little bit harder of a stem in the middle, but some of them do squish up just fine. You just have to see how you feel about it. I have this whole pile here that I'm going to go ahead and do. Now, one thing I am going to do is on the end of these stalks are what was the buds. I'm actually just going to go ahead and throw these out. They don't squish up very well, so we're just going to go ahead and put them down in the bin. So these are what I'm taking out, and they'll go straight to the goats. Now there's not really, you'll see on this, take those last few leaves off. So now all that's left is this, and this whole thing I'm gonna give to the goats. Alternatively, if you wanted, you could add this whole thing to your compost, as it will break down and be really nice in your compost. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish all of this, and then I'll come back when I'm done and we'll do the mint last. So one more jar done, our comfrey's done. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and wipe out our bowl and our top piece and grab another jar, and then we're gonna move on to the mint. Got my jar, gonna write mint 2021. And I've got my mint. And we're gonna go ahead and do that. I had mint and ginger mint downstairs, and I forgot to label which one was which. So they were all hanging sort of together. There was a few other things like space between them, but I couldn't remember which mint I put where. So I was sitting there with my mint jar, eating mint that I've already dried, and then eating the mint that's hanging and going, okay, which one tastes like ginger mint and which one tastes like mint? So, and then I made my my oldest daughter try too, so we had a little bit of a laugh over that. Label your things or you're gonna end up like me. Do as I say, not as I do, I guess is the saying. I don't know if you can see right there, over on the other side of the table, I actually have calendula. I picked calendula this morning as well, and I've just got it on a cookie sheet. It just sat out in the sun for the day, and then tonight I'm just gonna pop it in the oven, not on or anything, just to keep it safe, so it doesn't blow away or whatever, and then tomorrow it'll come back out. A lot of times, if I can, I do try to solar dry things like that. Oftentimes my rose petals and calendula and chamomile, I do try to solar dry like that. All right, so here's our little mint, and we're gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna take the bottom part here, the part that was actually holding it all in, and then the string is just gonna zip off there. Then I can go ahead and do it the exact same way that we did the nettle. And that's it, that's all there is to it. And you're left with this stick at the You can see here in the bowl, it's really easy again. Just squish it up. And of course I go through any like of the sticks like this. I just pop them out quick. Let's move on to the next one. I want to show you back a little bit further now that you've seen it up close. So I hold here, and then this hand doesn't move, and this hand pulls it backwards. Do you see? So hold, and pull it back. Now I like to use this part between my thumb and my fingers because it has a lot of work calluses. If you go up here, you're more likely to slice yourself. My fingers are pretty tough. Now, as I stated before, there are actual tools out there that you can buy that do this for you. I just don't bother because I can do it myself. I don't need a special tool to do it. And you have to go back and clear off the sticks anyway. Make sure that you've got everything, so I don't really see the draw to having a tool. But if you maybe don't have big old calluses on your fingers like I do, a little tool that does this for you might be something that you'd prefer to have. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna finish this mint, and then I'm going to feed the bits that are left over to the goats. Now I did want to point out that when I brought the herbs out, I brought them out on a cookie sheet. And the reason I did that is because herbs are pretty delicate, and if you brush up, when they're dry, they're pretty delicate. When you brush up against them and stuff, some of them will fall off. So this way it just ensures that any that have fallen off, like here you can see a bunch, at the end I'll just be able to pop them back in the bowl so that none's wasted. So that's all the mint in the bowl. I don't generally tend to squish my mint up super small, just because we normally just use it in teas. And having it super small means that you can end up with a pretty strongly brewed tea, maybe more than you anticipated. So that's that. Let's go ahead and get our jar out. So there you have it. Mint, stinging nettle, and comfrey. Now you've seen the whole process from the picking and harvesting to the tying and drying straight through to the storage. I do have one more thing that I want to add. While I was doing the comfrey, I went through and I looked at all the seed pods. Some of the seeds I had already pulled out, but some of them still had some seeds in it. So I went through and I collected the seed pods, and any that had seeds in it made it into this bowl. Now I've got to sift through this bowl and I'm going to pick the seeds out, and then these are the seeds that I will be saving to either gift or to grow myself. Now that our jars are all done, we do have one thing left to do, just one. We have the bin with all of the cast-offs, and the goats haven't gone in yet for the evening, so let's take that over to them as a little snack. Ready for a little snack? You guys are a little late to the party. A little late to the party. I'd say that was a successful treat. Hey girls? I hope you found this video helpful, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to take what you've learned and apply it to your own home. or your own backyard or your balcony or wherever it is that you're doing stuff, or even the grocery store, buying your stuff and bringing it home and drying it yourself for your own use. So thanks for hanging out with us today on the farm. If you've enjoyed this video in any way, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time on the farm. Have a great day.